everyone's having a wonderful day today. I've got my #1 helper here today with me, Sarabeth. This is my youngest daughter. She's how old?
9.
9 years old, y'all. 9 years old going on 35. Oh, but anyway, so today, look, I've had people ask me, Zach, what does a load of logs bring money-wise? You know, what are my logs worth? Okay, and really that's a loaded question depending on the kind of logs that you're cutting, the species, you know, type of logs. There's a good bit to it. You know, your area is going to depend on a lot of what your logs are going to bring too. Here in our area, we cut mostly hardwood timber, and our timber is graded according to the National Hardwood Association's grading scale on how it's graded and how it's sorted. It's sorted by species and grade both, and then it is scaled by volume with a board foot, scaled by the board foot and scaled with like a scale stick. Here in Tennessee, where we're at, we're on a Doyle scale. For most hardwood timber companies around in this area and on the East Coast, the Doyle scale is pretty popular. Now there is the international scale, and I believe there's another one called the Scribner scale. So there's 3 different scales, but primarily on the East Coast, in our area especially here in Tennessee, we are mostly on the Doyle scale. So that's how our logs are bought and also sold, is on a Doyle scale. Now, I want to jump into this thing and just talk about logs in general right to begin with. And we're going to show you some of these logs. These are the logs that Kate and Alice and I got out that you saw on the last video of us going uphill. These were the logs that we got out. And what I'm going to do is just kind of explain to you what these logs are and about how much money they'll bring. Now, I'm not going to give any mill specifics of one certain sawmill due to I don't want to reveal any prices or any of their I can't think of that word that I'm looking for, but I don't want to reveal their business trades secrets, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Although it's not really a secret, y'all. You can contact any sawmill and ask for a spec sheet, and they will email you or send you a spec sheet in the mail to tell you what their log prices are for that day or that week. Most sawmills in our areas try to keep the prices pretty level, pretty even. They don't try to go up and down. They just kind of try to keep it level. So what I have done, and for this particular video, I have averaged all of our mills in this area that I have hauled to, and I've hauled to several. I've took all the spec sheets from my area where I live out here in Middle Tennessee, and I've averaged all those prices, and I'm going to post on the screen where y'all can see it, the prices per board foot and how it's broke down by the grade, okay? But before we get into the prices and the grade, let's talk about these 2 piles of logs that we got here. We got 1 pile right here and 1 pile over there. Okay, this pile right here is tie logs. They're all going to be made into cross ties. There's a couple of them. I don't know if y'all can see it, but this one right here has got a spot in the end of it that's not quite sound. And Sarabeth, let's get the camera and bring them over here where they can see. Let's do that. Now, y'all, as I was just telling you, this pile of logs is going to be tie logs. Simply put, in our area, and I'm going to put the grades up on the screen where y'all can see that from top to bottom. You start out with veneer grade, then it'll go like to a prime plus grade, prime grade, #1, #2, #3s, and then you'll go into tie and pallet wood. Okay, these logs will be ties. They've got, you know, the solid centers. If it don't have no center rot or no defects in it in the center, they can make a cross tie out of it. Now, like this white oak log here, get a good look at this there, Beth, where they can see. This tie log right here is not sound in the middle. So this tie log right here will actually be made into pallet wood, and they will not pay as much for this log as they do for the rest of them. You know, like this is a white oak log, and for straight tie price would have been 55 cents per board foot. And like that log right there, let's see, that log, we'll get the short measurement. That log right there is going to be about 45 board feet in that log. And at 55 cents per board foot, if it would have made a tie, that's what it would have brought. Okay, but it ain't going to make a tie. It's going to make pallet wood. And that pallet wood's going to be cheaper, y'all, because it don't bring as much money. Okay, so in that pallet wood, if there's no clear lumber in there for them to get, it's going to be, they're going to knock it down to a lower grade. If it does have clear lumber in there that they can get, they're still going to maintain the grade and just deduct the footage that you would get by volume out of this centerpiece that's rotten, if that makes any sense. Okay, so to generalize this, we've got tie logs here, we got hickory ties, we've got white oak ties, we've got some red oak ties right here. They're all going to pay a little bit different price by species. Your red oak's going to bring like 50 cents per board foot. Your white oak is going to bring like 55 cents per board foot, and in this case, your hickories is going to bring like 45 cents or 47 cents, something like that. Again, I'm going to put the prices up on the screen where y'all can see it, and the prices are of the mills in our area averaged together. We don't want to let out any proprietary information in this video. This is just to give you guys an idea and an average across the board.
All right, now guys, I didn't know how to work this picture into my video because I was showing y'all the logs there in the log pile, and I didn't want you to miss any of that. So with that being said, okay, on the left side here, we've got the grade, starting with veneer at the top all the way down to tie logs, and then across the top is the species, white oak, red oak, hickory, and poplar, which are the 4 primary trees that species of trees that we have on this tract of timber that we're cutting here. So I wanted you to be able to see this and the prices, averages for our area.
Grade logs are going to be sawed into lumber, and they're going to be graded according to, and I'm going to put the grade sheet up on the screen where y'all can see it.
Okay, y'all, again, I didn't know how to work these pictures into my video just because I was showing y'all things on the logs, and I didn't want to cover it up to where you couldn't see it. So with that being said, we've got this deal here to where I've explained what each grade is and the specs for it. So you can take a moment and read over that, and then we'll press on with the video. And it starts out with the highest grade at veneer at number 1 and goes down to tie logs at number 7.
You know, you've got your veneer, prime plus, prime, number 1s, number 2s, number 3s. Zach, what is a prime log? What is prime? What does that mean? Okay, to make a prime log, y'all, a saw log, you see this square? Sarabeth, can you see that square? Mm-hmm. Okay, y'all, this square right here represents a log cant that they're going to get when they saw it at the sawmill. When they come in here and they saw the top off, saw the bottom off, saw the side off, and that side, they've got a wood cant that they're going to saw that lumber off, okay? Now, to qualify, let's just start with veneer. Veneer wood has got to have 4 sides that are clear. All the way down that log, they got to be clear. They can't have no knots or no kind of defects, no kind of cat faces, no kind of pin knots. Absolutely no defects down this log on 4 faces. This is a face, this is a face, this is a face, and this is a face, because that's how they're going to slab the lumber off, okay? A veneer tree has got to have 4 clean faces. It's got to be pretty straight. It's got to have, right here where the sapwood is, see like on this red oak, how you got sapwood right here? See how it's a different color? Your sapwood has got to be pretty even. You got to have a pith. You see how this pith right here, the center of the tree, it's not exactly in the center, okay? On a veneer tree, it's got to be in the center. Your growth rings, you know, when this tree grows, it makes a growth ring. Your growth rings have got to be pretty much perfect in a circle. You've got to have uniform growth rings all the way throughout it, and you want a thin sapwood. Y'all hear where we're at, our mills and our, you know, people that buy veneer, they're pretty hard on veneer. Most of it gets knocked down in the saw lumber. which is going to be like veneer wood. What it actually is, y'all, veneer wood is actually put like on a lathe and it's peeled. You'll have peelings that come off of it, and they take those peelings and make furniture out of it, you know, like countertops that have like that particle board inside of it with that hardwood layer on top. That's kind of like what veneer is. And a lot of veneer gets exported overseas. So veneer is your top quality, and it is the hardest to get. I very rarely cut a veneer tree, very rarely. Here where we're at in Tennessee, we cut a lot of stave logs, which is going to be your next grade down. Veneer would be considered pretty much grade, or excuse me, veneer would pretty much be considered stave in our area, and prime plus. It'd be kind of like an in-between, okay? You still want it to be straight and be nice and everything, but it can have knots here and there as long as they're spaced far enough apart that they can get a 3-foot section out of it to make whiskey barrels. That's what stave logs are, is actually whiskey barrels. But let's stay on track with just the regular run of the sawmill stuff, which is going to be veneer. Your next grade down is going to be prime plus. Okay, prime plus logs have to have 4 clean sides, and they have to be like this log here. It's 20 inches. Okay, from the inside of the bark to the inside of the bark. It has to be it has to be 18 inches or bigger to make prime plus logs. Okay, if it is prime logs, you got to have 4 clean faces right here. You see that, Sarabeth? They got to have 4 clean faces, and they got to be over 15 inches. So at 15 inches and above gets you prime pay. At 18 inches and above with 4 clean faces gets you prime plus pay at our mills in our area. Okay, now if it's under 15 inches, if it's smaller than 15 inches and you still got 4 clean faces, then it drops you down to like a number 1A log. That'll be like your next grade down, would be a number 1A or number 1A plus, some mills call it. But that's basically the next grade down. In other words, you got 4 clean faces, but it ain't got the size requirement. Now the sawmills ain't gonna take no logs unless they're 12 inches on the little end. Or in this case, tie logs gotta be 11 inches on the small end, okay? And a lot of these tie logs, the slab lumber that comes out here, y'all, on these bigger logs like these red oaks, they'll get a cross tie out of the center, and you gotta have that pith in the cross tie. Used to, if you had a real big log and you could get several cants out of it, you could make several cross ties out of it. That's not the case anymore. Now you got to have the pith in that cross tie, and then the lumber that comes out from around it out here is mostly made into pallet wood. If it's good clear lumber, like in this red oak or in that white oak, if it's got one side, say like this face right here doesn't have any knots, and they slab it off, and this side over here does, this side over here will be made, the one that's got knots will be made into pallet lumber. This side over here that's got clear lumber will be made into 8-foot grade stuff. 8-foot, grade lumber. Like number 1s or FAS, whatever you want to call it. On these bigger logs though, you'll have a lot more jacket lumber on the outside that comes off of it. So generally speaking, the mills will pay you less money, especially on mixed hardwood like beech, sycamore, gum. The bigger the log is, the less money it will pay, because you'll have more pallet wood on the outside versus the cant that's in the middle. Okay, now on your hickories and your oaks, most of the time it's set by just a set price. You got just a certain price for white oak ties, certain price for red oak ties, and it don't matter how big they are, because they're going to get some lumber off of it that's going to be, pretty good lumber. Okay, so now that we know what a prime plus log is and a prime log, we've also figured out what a number 1A log is, or number 1A plus, which is 4 clean sides, and it just don't meet the size requirement, okay? By the way, speaking of sizes, if you don't cut these saw logs at least 10 foot long in our area, if they're not at least 10 foot long, you won't get the prime and prime plus pay either. They gotta be 10 foot long or longer, and then over 15 inches and over 18 inches to qualify you for that prime and prime plus pay. So that's why you don't even want to consider cutting a saw log less than 10 foot. You just don't want to do it. If you got one less than 10 foot, it needs to go in the tie pile, no matter how many clean faces it's got. Okay? So now let's just say that you've got 1, 2 clean faces, 3 clean faces, and then on the bottom down here you got a knot. Okay? Now we're down into the number 1 saw log category, because you've got one face that has knots on it. Okay? And that's going to put you in the number 1 category grade. You know, you've got veneer, you've got prime plus, you've got prime, you've got 1A. Now we're down to number 1s, which is going to be one side is going to have a knot on it. You're going to have 3 clear sides and 1 dirty side. Now you're down to a number 1. All right? If you've got 2 sides that are dirty, in other words, you got a defect on two sides out of the 4, then you're down to a number 2 log. Okay? And once you get past the number 2, y'all, you just as well cut it up into ties, because that's where your money's going to break over. And again, I'm going to put this up on the screen where y'all can see it, you know, the money aspect of it and what these logs will actually bring. Now let's walk over here and look at the grade pile. All right, now I'm standing on this grade pile that we got out, and this pile is going to be a lot cleaner. And the way I determine my grade logs, if I've got 3 sides that are clean, in other words, when I follow that tree and it's laying there, if I can see 3 sides that are clean and ain't got no knots, I cut it into a grade log, and I cut it as long as the mules can handle it. 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s. Okay? You could also cut a double 10, which would be a 20 footer, you know, plus trim. You could cut a double 12, which would be a 24 footer, and so on. You could do it like that if you want to. Most of the time they're cut up into log length, like 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s. Okay? I cut it as long as the mules can handle it. Like these logs, you know, these ain't real big. The mules could handle these logs coming up that hill, and I knew that. So that's why I cut them 12 foot. I probably couldn't have done it 16. They might have could have handled maybe some of the real smaller ones, but the bigger ones, you know, all these are oak. These are all red oak and white oak, and they're heavy. Okay? So if it's got 3 clear sides, like I showed y'all on that square, in other words, this side here is clear, the top is clear, and that side over there is clear, there ain't no knots, then I'll start at the end and I'll come all the way down and measure off a 10 or a 12 or whatever log length I can, you know, the longest I can get for the mules. And then that's where I cut it off at. Okay? Now come right here, Sarabeth. Come around just a little bit, and I want them to see this knot right here. Can you get them where they can see that? See this knot right here? Can you see that in the video?
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a defect on this side, y'all. This log right here will be a number 1. All right, now you can back up. Back up right over where you was at. Now, like this white oak log that's sitting here right now, I know for sure that all of these logs are at least a number 1. This log right here is more than likely a prime plus white oak log, which is going to bring the most money. And again, I'll have it up on the screen where y'all can see it. It's going to bring the most money because 1, it meets the 18-inch requirement on the small end. 2, it's over 10 foot long. And 3, it's got 4 clean sides. That's how you know you've got a prime plus log. And then the species is white oak. White oak brings the most money right now in our area. Black walnut brings good money. Now, like this log right here, this is a, let's see, that's a black oak log. It's got 1 defect out here in the end. It's going to be a number 1 grade. Okay, this second white oak right over here. The second white oak is going to be a number 1 grade. It don't matter how big it is. It don't matter how long it is. It's still going to be a number 1 grade. Okay? Now, like this red oak log right here, This red oak log is clean. It's got 3 clean faces. I'm pretty sure that it's got 4 clean faces. With it having 4 clean faces, that would qualify it for prime grade logs. Let me see what the end of it is. Let's see here. All right, this one ain't gonna quite make 18 inches. It's gonna be like 17. So instead of getting prime plus grade on this red oak log, we're gonna get prime grade. It's gonna be 1 grade down just because of the diameter size of the log. You know, it's got 4 clean faces. It's over 15 inches, but it's under 18. It's got to be 18 or better to make prime plus. It does make 15 inches, which would qualify us for prime. Now, if it didn't make 18 or 15 inches, if it didn't make the 15 inches, like I said, then you would have a number 1A. Okay? So this log, this red oak here would be a number 1A. And then you've got this white oak right here. Let's see. Same deal with this white oak. It's clean. I don't see no knots, but it's 17 inches. So 17 is not going to make the prime plus grade. It's going to be a prime grade, which is just 1 level down. Okay? So, I hope that kind of explains a little bit better on these logs. And these logs here, what is here, will make just a little bit over a truckload. Now remember, y'all, I want to preach this to you so you can really understand what a good tree is and what one that's just going to make cross ties. Okay? Remember, for the National Hardwood Association grading standard, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 faces on a log. Depending on how many clean faces or clear faces, clear sides, some sawmills will say it like that, they'll say clear sided. Depending on how many clear sides you have is depending on the grade that you're going to get. And you can see the grade with the tree standing, and you can tell what you're looking at just by looking at it down there in the woods. Okay? So let's go down there and look. Okay, y'all, we're standing here right now at a hickory tree. All right, this tree is marked to be harvested. Hickory trees, y'all, the only market that we have here in our area is tie logs. This is a nice hickory tree. It's big. You could get a lot of lumber out of this, but we don't have a lumber market for hickory. Hickory lumber is going to be pallet wood. So your best money on this hickory tree right here is ties. Now, for instance, on the grading system, look at that knot right up there. You see that first knot? Sarabeth, can you show that to him?
Trying.
Okay. Don't lift it up. Just tilt it up.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, can y'all see that knot right there, that first knot? On this hickory tree, it doesn't matter about that knot up there because all you can make is cross ties. 9 foot, 18 foot. That's a single tie or a double tie. The sawmill will take it either way. However, you got to remember that when they scale it, they're going to scale the small end. You see how this hickory tree tapers? If you cut a double tie, this log down here is going to be a lot bigger than the next one up. If you cut a double tie, they're going to scale it on the small end, which means you're going to lose a little bit of footage on this bottom log. You would be better off in this case to cut 2 logs out of it if it's got a whole lot of taper. You'll save a little bit of board footage. It might not be a lot, but it'll be some. Okay, here's something I wanted to show y'all. Come right around here, Sarabeth. All right, see this right here? You see this right in here, how it's got that little old indentation in it? Can you see that? Okay. That, y'all, is going to probably indicate that this hickory is going to be hollow down in the butt, down in the bottom. So whenever we fell this tree and cut it down, we're probably going to have to come up here a foot or 2 and butt it off to get back in the hardwood. Because the sawmills do not want tie logs that are not sound in the middle. they're gonna make pallet wood out of that, okay? Or like what I was explaining to you earlier with that white oak that had that bad spot in the butt. On these hickories, they can't do anything with it but pallet wood. All right, so let's look at a couple more. Okay, now we're here at a red oak tree. This is a scarlet oak. All right, it's a good tall tree, gonna make several logs. We do have a market for red oak grade lumber, which will be that 4-face deal I was telling you about. And if we walk around and look at this tree, all right, it's clean on these sides. You just stay right over here, Sarabeth. It's clean on the back sides over here. It's clean right here. Now we've got a knot. Our first knot is right there. All right. And then there's a knot right over here on this side. Okay. I'm probably gonna wind up having to include both knots in this butt cut, and that'll make this a number 2 grade log, because you've got a knot on this face and a knot on this face. I might could get them to where them knots are in the same face, and if you can do that, then you will still have a number 1, because both knots be in the same face. And most sawmills will try to do that. They'll look at it from that point of view to where they'll put both knots in the same plane when they plane it off with the sawmill, and it'll make this a number 1 butt cut. But it's still not going to qualify for prime, even though this is a 19-inch tree, which would put us over the top for prime plus grade. You got them knots up there, so that's going to knock us down to a number 1 and possibly a number 2. Okay, so let's move on down here and look at a couple more. Okay, now here we are at a white oak species tree. The white oak is going to pay the most for our area. Now let's talk about how it's going to grade out. Okay, because just because it's a white oak don't mean necessarily that you're going to get more money out of it. Okay, this white oak way on up there, this is a nice tree. It's got 4 clean sides for a pretty good ways up there, so you can get probably 1, maybe 2 cuts out of it that are really nice. Okay, let's see now. This is a 19-inch tree at breast height. That would qualify us for prime plus white oak price, which is going to be, you know, that high dollar price. And you're going to get at least 2 cuts out of it at that price and grade. Well, you might not get 2 prime plus cuts. You might have a prime plus and a prime cut, because that second cut might be down to 15 inches, so to speak, or below 18 inches. I mean, 15 to 18. You know, your prime plus is going to be over 18, your prime is going to be 15 to 18, and then anything below 15 is going to knock you down into that number 1A category. But this tree right here is a good tree, and it's clean. Okay, so that's a good example of a nice money tree right here. This is a money tree, y'all. Okay, now let's take this white oak right here that's laying down. This white oak right here is a tree that I already felled and pulled the tops back from where me and Kate and Alice got them logs out the other day. Now, I don't have a bad example of a white oak right here in this immediate area, so we're going to use this tree that's already on the ground as an example. Okay, this is a white oak, okay, and we still got a couple logs to cut out of this thing, which is good that we got it up here. But look right here, you got these limbs that's growing out of it. There's a knot, there's a knot, you know, there's a knot, there's a knot. It's knotty all over, y'all. It's got knots all the way around it. Even though this is a white oak tree, this tree is only going to bring tie price, because it's got knots all the way around it and it's too small in diameter. You know, remember, to get that prime and prime plus pay, you got to be at least 15 inches, and for prime plus you got to be 18 inches, and you got to be 10 foot long. So this right here, the rest of this top right here will be cross ties. That's how we'll work it up. Okay, so let's move over here and find us a poplar tree. Okay, y'all, now here we got a tulip poplar. Yellow poplar, the Tennessee state tree. That sucker is on up there too, buddy. Y'all look up there at it. Show them, Sarabeth. It's on up there. It's a tall one. Okay. Now, poplar, we have a grade market for poplar. For grade lumber. And like this poplar here is clean all the way around it. And it's clean for a while up there. There ain't no limbs nowhere. Poplars will shoot straight up and get very tall and will shed their limbs early in its life and be, you know, bushy at the top. They won't have a lot of limbs down low. So poplar will usually grade out pretty good because it'll have 4 clean faces. This tree here, you're looking at 23 inches at breast height. This tree is going to qualify for prime plus in the butt cut. And you're probably going to get 2, you might even get 3 prime plus cuts out of this poplar right here because it's so big. Once it gets up to the top, y'all, and it starts getting limby, and it's still over 12 inches, you can make pallet logs out of that. And they'll get some grade lumber off of it. You know, #1 poplar, FAS. You'll still get some grade lumber out of those logs. But like if you got 1 clear side and 3 dirty, you can get some clean off of that one face. Probably not, but some. And then you'll have a lot of pallet wood. And it'll be in the lower grade, lower quality pallet wood. Now let's take a look at this red oak right here. This red oak right here has got some fungus. It's dying. It's got a lot of knots. You can see these knots all around it, all over it. It's rough, y'all. It's a rough looking tree. Okay, show them up there, sir, about how tall it is. There's a bulge up there in the middle of it. Y'all probably can't see it, but I can. Right up there in the middle, it's got a bulge in it. That's probably gonna have to be cut out. Okay, so this tree right here, this is gonna be straight tie log, y'all. It's gonna be red oak ties. That's all you're gonna get out of it. You're not even gonna get a grade butt cut. A lot of times, like that red oak up there that we just looked at a while ago, you'll get a butt cut out of it that's a grade log, and then from there on up, it'll be cross ties, okay? Sometimes you'll get 2 grade cuts. A butt cut and your first cut will be grade cuts, and then it'll be tie logs there on up till it necks down to 11 inches. Remember, grade logs have to be 12 inches on the small end or bigger to be qualified for grade. To be qualified for cross tie and pallet wood, it has to be 11 inches on the small end. That's for our mills in our area. And that's pretty standard throughout the hardwood timber markets, okay? So, like this red oak, it's all gonna be cross ties. This poplar tree, it's gonna be mostly grade logs, y'all. Poplar don't pay as good, but it's easy to cut, it's softer, you ain't got no limbs, and you'll get more grade logs per tree than you will like on this rough looking red oak right here, okay? So, let me see here. So basically on this job, we've got hickory trees, which are gonna be all tie logs. We've got some red oak in here, such as this one. Some of it is making some grade. Most of it, at this point, that I've cut has went into ties. And y'all, trees like that, it's just sucking up nutrients from a really good tree, like such as a white oak or some of these young poplars. It's sucking up nutrients from a little higher value tree, so therefore we would cut that one and get it out of here, okay? And then like over here, you got a nice young, you know, pretty nice white oak that's standing over here. We want to get these coil trees out of here, let them pay what they're going to pay, and then leave a good stand of young, viable timber when we leave. That's the idea behind this whole deal. Okay, y'all, so look, I appreciate you hanging out with us. I hope this has kind of enlightened you a little bit on, you know, what your timber might be worth, what the logs might be worth. We've got 26 tie logs here in this pile. They're running 50 cents a board foot, you know, average. Or not 50 cents a board foot, excuse me, I'm sorry. They're running about 50 board feet a log, just average. So with that being said, you know, some of these, there's some bigger logs logs back here that are going to increase our average. But then there's some smaller ones in here too. So they're running about 50 board feet, you know, all averaged in. And there's 26 of them, which would be right at a truckload. This a single axle truckload, 1,350 feet is what we try to shoot for on red. 10 tons roughly, and this is all heavy hardwood, hickory and oak. So I'll kind of give you an idea of what a load of cross ties would bring based off of the figures that we put on the screen. We'll do a little bit of math, and based off of those figures off the sheet, I'll tell you what this load of cross ties are going to bring. And then based off of that, then me and the landowner would split it, because we're working on a percentage. Me and the landowner would split that total money. And the way we got this job bid is 60-40. 60% to me, 40% to the landowner. And that's of all the logs that go to the sawmill, whether it's saw logs or whether it is cross ties. All the loads that goes into the mills are split 60% to me, 40% to the landowner. Okay? And a lot of that's got to do with the way this job is hilly. The timber's a little harder to get out. Anytime that the timber's harder to get out, or you got, you know, longer trips to the mill, stuff like that, it all affects your bottom line and what it takes to get the timber out. And whenever, you know, it starts affecting, you know, getting the timber out, you kind of got to adjust things a little bit, because you definitely don't want to be doing it and not making any money. But at the same time, you don't want to just be taking somebody's timber away from them either. So there's a lot to balance out and a lot to think about in this stuff. And I hope I've shared enough of it with you to kind of make sense of it, and maybe you guys can understand it, and especially some of you potential landowners can understand why certain logs will pay more. Right now, our tie and pallet by volume, we've only hauled in a few loads, a couple loads. Right now, our tie and pallet volume is about 40% of the total volume. Our grade logs is running about 60% of the total volume. But as you can see here, we've got more tie than we do pallet. Okay, so when we haul these next two loads in and we average the total volume again, those numbers are going to come together. And it's eventually going to get to a point probably to where we're going to wind up having more ties than we do grade, if that makes any sense. And that's something you kind of want to look at. You kind of want to look at your overall averages throughout the job and keep up with it as you go, and see kind of how things are doing as you go. And you want to keep your high grade stuff higher than your low grade if you can. But some jobs are just like that. Some jobs you're going to have more tie and pallet than you do grade. That's just the way it is. And then some jobs you're going to have more grade than you do tie. So with that being said, that's kind of how, you know, our markets are and what we have to do to market our logs. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. I know it's been a little bit long and probably boring, but this is something that, you know, it needs to be showed to. It's part of it, and I told you I'd always tell you the truth. You know, well, whatever we do, whether it's logging, mules, whatever, I'll tell you the truth. Some of it might not be as easy as other parts, but you'll get the truth one way or the other. So thank you guys for being here, hanging out with us, spending time with me and Sarabeth. We really appreciate you, don't we? We appreciate everybody, don't we? We love you all, and we hope you have had a good Thanksgiving at this point and had some time off. Everybody likes family time, don't they? Being out of school, we like it. So, look, thank y'all again. Thank you for hanging out and being here with us. I'm going to put my email up here on the screen. If any of you's got any questions and you need to holler at me, just hit me up. Be glad to talk to you. And we'll have some more videos coming out here for you soon. And as always, I'm going to be praying for you, each and every one of you. If you can hear my voice, I'm praying for you. So y'all take care. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.